So, welcome to Absurd and Report. I'm Josh.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Nicole.
And we're going to go into the Mandela Effect today, which is one of the fucking most ridiculous things.
It's one of my most favorite theories to exist that I've ever looked upon, and every time I spout off about it, some person in the corner thinks I'm a whack job.
I mean, I feel like it's a prominent thing now. I mean, just so for a little background, some things that are considered the Mandela Effect is some people remember that... well, it's named after Nelson Mandela, because some people remember that he died in the 80s, and they remember this elaborate funeral, but in historical fact, he really got out of prison 10 years after that and was still alive for another several years, so...
I'm one of those people.
So you remember this funeral?
I remember it.
Because a few of my friends are like, oh, I totally remember this, grandiose funeral.
And I do not.
I don't remember that shit at all.
I remember it.
I remember he got out of jail, and then he, was on an episode of Celebrity Boxing or some shit like that.
It happened to me because... Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
It happened to me because I was talking about it with my friend, and I kept saying he died, and she was like, no, he's still alive. And then I was like, yeah, I think you're right. He's probably still alive. And so I looked it up, and then I was like,
Everyone describes it the same way, too, so I don't know.
I don't know where I pulled that from.
I remember him getting out of prison.
Yeah.
I remember it being a big deal.
Yeah, I watched it on the news, yeah.
I was a history buff.
Yeah.
Still am. And current events was definitely my jam in school. I was always up to date and stuff like that, and it was very interesting. I specifically remember him getting out of prison.
Yeah, I watched it on the fucking news.
I watched him walking out.
Yeah. But, like I said, I've met probably 5 different people that are like, oh yeah, I definitely remember watching his funeral, all that shit.
And that dovetails into another instance of the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of shit like that.
And then the Berenstain Bears.
Which I remember, this one I remember as the EI.
I remember as the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah. And then and it's always AI, right? Is that what it is in reality?
I could have sworn. I had all the books, and I swear they said EI.
Yeah.
And another good example is the Star Wars example, where it's Luke, I am your father, but he actually says, no, I am your father.
Yeah, that one pissed me off recently, because I feel like I've watched that movie 800 times, because I'm a fucking dork. I've obviously watched that movie.
I ran around as a child picking on my cousins going...
So, and then here's my favorite.
I think Tommy Boy has a lot to do with that issue, because that's what he says when he's talking into the spinning fan. He
says, Luke, I am your father.
I am your father.
Maybe
and you know what? That's just enough
to
put it into the universe.
What's Tommy Boy?
Oh, the greatest film ever made?
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
It's
so how would I make...
I wish I had a record scratching effect.
We'll add it. You can add it in post.
Quick, cut me off.
It's a Chris Farley movie from the mid-90s where it's just a lot of fat guy flailing around, basically, the movie. It's pretty funny. But yeah, he definitely says that when he's impersonating him in it. So
and that was a formative movie.
Oh yeah,
for me.
Same. Yeah,
for me
as a child.
So I do, when I think of start with that line, I think of Luke.
Yeah,
I am Luke. I am your father.
Yeah. And then here's my favorite example of the Mandela Effect is people remember a Sinbad movie about him being a genie. That's almost the same movie as... Remember there's the Shaquille O'Neal...
Kazam.
Rapping genie movie, Kazam.
Kazam.
So, people remember one with him in it.
I do.
You remember this movie? It doesn't exist. I've seen him go fucking off about it before.
I do.
But I've seen the fucking picture of him in the genie costume. So, what the fuck...
It could be. I mean, it was the 80s, man. That could have just been...
Is this him at a party? He's just on cocaine?
For sure.
He did always have wind pants on. That had
David Bowie was dressed like a pirate half the time, but he wasn't a fucking swashbuckler.
A stand-up special of Sinbad in the mid-80s, but he's got his fucking name written down the side of his pants. He's wearing the MC Hammer pants.
The Hammer pants, the classic windbreaker. It could be that just the name Sinbad is synonymous with
pirate wear.
The pirate folklore. You know what I mean, fantasy sword fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, Shazam is the one that people remember him.
No,
in.
Shazam
is a new one coming out.
Well, no, that's an old comic.
This is also the movie that people remember that doesn't technically exist. That
they thought it was Shazam.
Yeah.
It makes sense because I kind of remember that too. But it's Kazam with Shaq.
Well, Sinbad claims this movie never got made, basically. And I just found someone. There's a thing on YouTube. It says Mandela Effect. Sinbad genie movie found in denial interview. With a picture of fucking
He's
picture of
waiting in
Sinbad dressed as a
denial.
genie, and it says Shazam is real with a fucking arrow right on his head. See if you can pull this up.
Well, I'm looking at Berenstain Bears or Berenstain Bears.
I like how this came up in the form of a poll to ask you which you believe in.
The actual correct title of the series is Berenstain Bears.
So basically, so what's the theory behind Mandela Effect? Is that some people remember shit from an alternate reality? Is that what the deal is
Well,
with it?
it looks like it could be part of something that's called a multiverse or an interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Yeah. So that's you skipping between realities, basically?
Pretty much. It's almost like if two dimensions were on top of each other and almost kind of evaporated through each other.
Ah, okay. I guess it's not entirely infeasible.
What am I looking up?
I don't know. Which one you want to look up? The fuck one were we just talking about? The Shazam one. This is what we're going to try to do on the podcast right now. We're going to try to prove that Shazam was a real movie.
Starring Sinbad.
And that Sinbad is a fucking liar. Fucking puffy pants wearing motherfucker. So what do we got here? What did that say? His deadly confession about Shazam? Oh, this is a fake one. This is like he's bullshitting everyone.
Actually,
Yeah, this is just him trolling. I've watched this one before.
Okay, he's trolling.
Yeah, so there's one of him trolling and fake admitting that he did it. Is this like a clip from it?
What are you doing? Dad could have thrown out all hormone stuff. He just could have.
Like I said, the 80s were a crazy time. He could have done this movie and totally not
He just don't even remember that
remember.
shit. Yeah.
But I feel like this is not it because I see a College Humor logo in the bottom, and the
It's probably just another fucking trolling video.
the tape looks doctored
Yeah.
to make it look like it's on a VHS.
while you guys are looking for that, I do just want to say real quickly, I did pull up a blog on discovermagazine.com, and it does give a little explanation behind the quantum physics of the Mandela Effect.
All right, hit me.
It says, when not directly observed, electrons and other subatomic particles diffract like waves, only to behave like particles when a measurement is made. Essentially, it's as if these particles exist in multiple places simultaneously until directly observed.
Well, I do know basic quantum theory is that on the smallest level of molecular physics is that it's electrons disappearing and reappearing in cycles.
Okay.
So, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Erwin Schrödinger explained that strange concept with Schrödinger's cat thought experimented in 1935. If a cat were placed in a box with a radioactive decay detector rigged to break a flask of poison when activated, a decaying particle existing as a wave would yield to simultaneous macro-scale realities.
Have you not heard of the Schrodinger's cat theory?
Dude, I have no idea what the fuck you guys are talking about. I'm not gonna lie to you.
One where the cat is alive and one where the cat is dead. Although upon observation one could see that the cat is either dead or alive, some quantum physicists such as late Hugh Everett III, who first proposed the many worlds of interpretation in 1957, have speculated that both realities exist, but in separate parallel universes.
So the observer makes the ultimate decision by choosing what box to open, and then whatever box he doesn't open then becomes the alternate timeline.
So you kind of remember, because it's still you, but in an alternate reality, if you didn't go that route.
If you didn't go that route.
Right.
I get it.
So it's basically just there's infinite alternate realities. That's
It's the Ouroboros. That's what it leads
Yeah.
back to, the ending loop of time. If you've ever seen that Netflix show Dark,
Nope.
they
Never
kind of
seen it.
really address a lot of this in Dark. And if you haven't seen it, it's really good. You should honestly go watch it. It's very culty. It's all about time repeating itself and alternate realities and parallel universes.
Well, I like I like that concept a lot. The thing I wonder about the most is what causes that bleed in between stuff. You know.
It's got to be
What if you were
energy.
Okay, it's kind of like if you were to take this bag,
Yeah.
and this is time, but what if you were to take time
Well,
and
just to
fold it in half.
Oh yeah, I mean I know that concept. I guess that's what everyone uses for like UFOs and stuff like that when they talk about how something would fly around the universe. You know.
You take like a paper, fold it in half, wormhole.
Yeah.
Or
I don't know. It's a cool thing to think like how does that naturally occur, and then we just get and why the results of it are stupid shit like us remembering a fake genie movie from Sinbad.
But that's what
that's unlocking the mysteries of the universe when it folds in on itself. It just creates a fake genie movie in everybody's brain that never happened.
It's those little tears that make it the most noticeable, because you remember it but other people don't.
The show, here's more examples of the Mandela Effect. The show is not called Sex in the City. It's called Sex and the City.
Yeah.
But I remember it as Sex in the City.
No, it's and.
No, I remember it as in. I remember specifically it being in.
Well, I feel like if you say and fast enough, it sounds like
sounds like in, yeah. So take that, stupid.
No, and then this is another one. Many people think that...
Oh, yeah, the end of We Are the Champions?
Of the world.
Yeah, he doesn't say it.
Yes, he does.
Of the world?
Of the world, I remember that.
He sure does.
I don't know. He doesn't say it at the end of it.
So this is actually really interesting that we have, several things that we've seen and not seen.
I also smoke a lot of marijuana, so,
But
I could be wrong. That's how I always remember it ending. I never remember him singing Of the World at the end of it.
Maybe it's not at the end. Maybe it's just at a different dip in the song. And I do know there was a musical... All right, so
he does say Of the World in other parts of the song.
Okay, well, there's a musical phenomenon that I studied in music theory. And that is there is a certain scale and a certain sequence that your brain will automatically fill in notes in that sequence to make it complete. So
I was just reading about that.
If say you play your scale or something comes around, perfect example being We Are the Champions. Yeah. You hear it once, and then the second time around, it's going in that same directions, and then it doesn't.
Yeah, so your brain completes it.
Yeah,
I feel like that's
because at the very end, my brain wanted to complete. That
just naturally happens,
I did pull up something interesting for the Shazam genie thing. There are several reasons for this. First, a large number of general associations increase the probability that a false memory could emerge. Twin films with similar concepts being released around the same time were common in the 1990s. Sinbad had a different movie out the same year called First Kid, which, like Kazam, involves a hero coming to the aid of a wayward boy.
Yo, that movie sucks. I forgot about that movie.
He was a Secret Service agent.
I believe so. Yeah, man, that is a stinker. Even as a child, even as a child, I was like, yo, this shit is not a good movie.
And Sinbad had also previously released a movie called House Guest in 1995, the poster for which has an image of his head coming out of a mailbox.
Okay, I remember that movie.
I've seen that movie numerous times.
Yes,
Perhaps abstractly resembling a genie emerging from a lamp.
I think that's a stretch. I think it's a bit of a stretch.
Sinbad is an Arabic name, and the story of Sinbad the sailor is often associated with encounters with genies.
Don't look at the screen. Oh.
Sinbad's bald head and goatee resemble a typical genie portrayed in the media. Sinbad also dressed up like a genie for a movie marathon he hosted in the 1990s.
That's probably where it came from.
Which almost certainly contributed to the memory of Sinbad playing a genie, besides similar associations laying the groundwork for a false memory to form. The other main factors in the instance are confabulation and suggestibility.
Oh.
Is it Interview with the Vampire or Interview with a Vampire?
I'm gonna say
Interview with a Vampire.
With a or the?
I'm gonna say the.
I'm gonna say
It is Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
I remember it as Interview with a Vampire.
I've read the book and seen the movie a bunch of times.
But so have I.
Yeah.
Listen, this next one is a big pile of turds in a bucket, and I'm calling it now.
The Queen and Snow White never said mirror, mirror on the wall. That's bullshit.
I've been saying it for my whole life because I'm the prettiest of them all.
we're just debunking Mandela effects right now.
It could be from the book. That's why. Mirror, mirror on the wall. She definitely said it.
Let's get to where,
Jiffy peanut butter doesn't exist. Get the fuck out of here.
See, what I'd be interested in is why the fuck do people have this memory of Mandela's funeral? What is that based on?
Well, let me tell you.
It happened in another
I
time.
remember there being like crowds of people and them hoisting him down in a casket with flowers on it. I just remember it that way.
See, I remember it as like a Weekend at Bernie's type scenario where they had him in like a they had him like a floral shirt.
They had him propped up in
sunglasses.
between John Silverman and whatever the fucking other guy's
Yeah,
name
you know,
was.
they're partying, picking up chicks. Like,
But
it was a hell of a funeral.
on a greater scale of like we got to in the last podcast, do you think there's something way bigger up there controlling this? Is the Mandela effect actually real? Do you believe it?
Hyper-modern physics, the stuff that Stephen Hawking's kind of group of scientists were working on.
Yeah.
Hyper-modern physics stated that the universe has always existed. It's just disappeared and reappeared in cycles. And if you can kind of like picture it in terms of like a really long hot dog that doesn't have a beginning or end, in a sea of other long hot dogs that don't have beginnings or ends, disappearing and reappearing randomly. That's kind of like what 2,000-year-old Buddhist theory is now matching up with the cutting edge of what science is, where science is.
But not just any science, but the scientist Stephen Hawking, who was smart as fuck.
Putting it lightly.
I tried to read a Stephen Hawking book before, and I was like, I have no fucking idea what's happening in this at all. And I just gave up.
The book that he what was it, The Universe?
Yeah, some shit like that.
Actually, the universe is really interesting because some theories that I've heard too about the universe.
A Brief History of Time.
Is that, and then I also heard that the universe is kind of like an elastic, and once it stretches out so far, it kind of closes in on itself.
That doesn't sound good.
And then, at the center of every galaxy, there is a black hole. Oh, yeah. At the center of any galaxy, there is a black hole, and I think that, black holes create a lot of matter in its own. I don't know how, but,
Well, that is an interesting point, because I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago,
the image.
We got our first image of an actual black hole. Josh, you know about this?
Yeah, I looked at it.
This? Yeah.
It's Snoop Dogg's blunt.
We've all seen Event Horizon, and we've discussed it.
Man, Event Horizon just keeps coming up in the last 2 weeks.
Well,
Not even just with you guys. I had a whole conversation with my friend about Event Horizon last night.
Well, it's because
some movies
we're talking about black holes.
Some movies just staple it all together in a nice box.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little demonic and
if you go through a black hole, you go to
rapey.
hell.
Yep. Bang. That's it. That's the lesson of that movie.
So what about Event Horizon?
Well, that's what a black hole, where time and space cease to coexist at the entrance of the black hole. That's called the event horizon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I get it now.
But in that movie, it means you go to hell. That's
yeah, I know. That's why I was thinking of the wrong things.
You're gonna want to fist yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Don't slow down those scenes.
Do slow down
in hell.
I fucking watched a review of that movie the other day, and the guy was talking about how like his like wife came home with the kids while he's watching that scene, and he tried to pause it so the kids wouldn't see it, and it just kept pausing on something more and more horrible each time. For anyone that doesn't know this, Event Horizon has this scene referred to as the blood orgy scene. That's what it's referred to as.
I don't know how they got away with
It's
this.
a montage of just like the most fucked up shit. And if you know anything about the movie, they filmed enough to make a 3.5-hour movie, and it got trimmed down to like an hour and 20 minutes or something.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so like those scenes are like just a snippet of the scenes they filmed for it, which they were just filming insanely fucked up shit.
I mean, you see like 1 frame, 2 frames.
One of them is like a woman sodomizing a guy with a pipe. Like one of them is I think some guy getting his face ripped off. Like just shit like that. It all looks hyper realistic, basically.
Right.
Yeah. But that's what it's known as, the blood orgy scene. But
Sam Neill does it so
good.
good.
The guy was like,
I love me some Sam Neill.
I don't remember the name of it. It's the guy that he's angry video game nerd on YouTube. His other show, Rental Reviews, he was the one talking about it, but he said his wife had to like, get the kids out of the room because he's just like fumbling trying to pause it. It's just this more and more horrifying scene every single time.
Might as well have just been watching porn.
Yeah, he's just watching a snuff film basically in his living room.
Oh Jesus!
But yeah, no, I think black holes definitely give birth to a lot of existence of maybe what we know.
Yeah.
I feel like...
So what, a lot of Mandela Effect shit would just be like a mini version of that, essentially? Like you swap in and out of reality, basically?
Yeah, and another interesting thing about black holes themselves is that they can evaporate.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they can evaporate over time.
I don't know a lot about space-related science, basically. But...
I know it's the Flintstones.
Is that a debated one as well? The Flintstones.
I'm looking at 350 examples of the Mandela Effect. I took on the ridiculous task of catering a movie. But we got to talk about this movie for 1 second.
I've worked on a few movies and it sucks, I got to tell you.
Well, I'm going to drop a little fucking bomb on you
Yeah.
and give you this brief synopsis of this film. All right, so they're filming it at the old closed down Mardi Gras.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And you know where it is.
Yeah, why don't you give a little background on Mardi Gras?
Mardi Gras is a late night music venue that had, I think, 7 or 8 different rooms, and each room being a different type of music. So you could theoretically walk from the fist bumping, what's the freaking Pauly D DJ room, Jersey Shore.
He probably
fucking
did DJ
Brody.
there before.
Oh, you
He's from
bet
around
you,
here, yeah.
you 100%.
I've seen
bet.
him DJ on accident
You know
before.
who told me about Mardi
too.
Gras? Kate Amarin.
Oh.
Yeah.
But then you go to the next room and they have line dancing, and then they have the next room which is like all Jimmy Buffett, only Jimmy Buffett, tropical fucking.
That's why I never went there.
And then they had a decent.
Sounds like my kind of joint.
And then they had a decent rock and roll room with and to play a gig there wasn't too bad. They had a competent sound guy.
Yeah.
They had their own gear, and so
a competent sound guy.
So they're filming a movie about by day he is a talking dog, and then by night he is a secret agent talking dog.
Are you fucking with us right now? This is the movie you're this sounds like a bad 80s movie.
Is Nicolas Cage star in it?
Almost certainly. He's playing the dog.
It sounds like the guy who wrote No. They starred Nicolas Cage as the dog. That is fucking absolute. So it's a
How did you know?
So it's a talking dog cop movie. That's what you're telling me? Is the dog CG like a CGI'd talking dog? Or
No, it's a real dog.
It was a real dog. I was told that it was the #1 stunt trick dog in the world.
That dog's getting paid more than you on that movie, bro.
Wait,
you bet.
More important question. What kind of dog is this?
Looked like a mutt. It looked like a mutt. It wasn't like a golden. It wasn't like a.
Can you describe how cute it was?
It was pretty cute.
Yeah, we've gotten insanely off track at this point.
Listen,
from the
I
Mandela
need to know
Effect.
about the cute dog.
It's not every day you meet a talking dog.
He doesn't talk in real life.
Apparently
Well, yeah, because he's a
not
secret
cute.
agent. It would blow his cover.
Because I haven't heard anything about how cute this dog is.
Oh my god.
You'll see.
Secret agent dog, huh? Is this like are you working on a fucking
Secret
Airbud
This is
movie?
agent dog.
No, it wasn't an Airbud movie, but that was actually my first question when I asked.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like it'd be an Airbud sequel, you know?
There's already been 5.
Yeah.
So what's another?
It's another 7 of them, you know?
There doesn't need to be any more
Straight to
Airbud
video.
movies.
Straight to video. That's a cash cow.
They should do like Air Dolphin.
Oh, so make it a different basketball playing animal every time? How's the dolphin gonna play basketball?
Aren't dolphins allergic to air?
You can't.
With its snoot, it comes out of the water and boops that ball right into the net.
But basketball's not played in the water. Where is this?
Oh, yeah, well, okay, so Air Bud, they do other things too, like football and maybe one golfs. I don't know.
So does MVP, doesn't he?
The
MVP's like he's got like a basketball movie and a
I think
skateboard.
it's hockey. I think it's hockey.
I think there's like a hockey one. I think there's like a rollerblading one.
And everybody remember that
Brink.
Why the
Disney
fuck
show
do I
Brink?
know?
Damn it! I was already on it.
You gotta get up pretty early in the morning.
Stump this guy on a rollerblading TV show from
We
fucking
both thought
20 years
about
ago.
Yes, and Limp Bizkit cover band names.
Oh my god. See,
By
you
the
had to
way,
sneak
it's
it in.
counterfeit.
What's that?
The Limp Bizkit cover band is called Counterfeit.
Oh, of course it is. Of course
Not-
it's called Counterfeit.
Not Thirsty Dancing.
Thirsty Dancing is far superior
Oh my God.
of a cover band name for Limp Bizkit.
Honestly, I'm kind of mad that it's not. Maybe I should write them and tell them,
I think
hey,
we go to the show and let them know.
show up.
So you're gonna go to a Limp Bizkit cover show to lay down the law on the band about their name for their Limp Bizkit cover band.
Tell them
They deserve to know.
I'll
They're
stick
like-
their cookie up their ass.
Their life's probably pretty low to begin
And-
with, since they're doing a Limp Bizkit cover band at a bar.
We're rolling,
on a Saturday night.
rolling. What?
It's one band that could easily be wiped from history and music would not change in the
Don't
slightest.
forget that Fred Durst did have a song with the Method Man called "End Together."
I know,
And
it's
together
right,
now,
I
and
know.
that's quasi decent. The Method Man.
Redman's on it too,
No.
right?
No,
I
I
thought it was
think it's
both.
just Method Man.
Oh, I thought it was both for some reason.
Redman
Killer
usually,
bees on the track.
Redman usually does follow in Method Man's.
He's just kind of
footsteps.
there. It's
Well,
kinda
he's an official member of the Wu Tang Clan now.
that and like EPMD. I'd like to see him just be permanent members of both.
All right, let's do a sign off.
Nope, it's just Method Man.
Son of a bitch. Mandela Effect. they were both in that.
It's
I remember it.
Wu Tang is just all one person.
Yep, that's
Wu-Tang.
the Mandela Effect. So what's our summary of the Mandela Effect, basically? Mainly
Is
internet
it
kooks.
bullshit?
I don't know. It's a tough one, I think.
I think when you think about it in ways that, there are parallel universes with, the whole experiment with Schrodinger's cat. I think when you look at it at that aspect, I kind of believe it more. But when we look at it and we look at all these bullshit theories, I'm just like,
It's just like a lot of them are really asinine things. That's all I'm saying. Like,
people can
Why-
remember or forget whatever they want when they don't even read into the idea of it more.
I just feel like it's not that profound of stuff for what, like, how crazy of a thing it's supposed to be. It's like realities blend into each other, but like,
The only
Listen, I
big-
forget shit
but
all
now
the time.
VHSs of Berenstain Bears are spelled different, and that's it. Like,
The biggest example that creates that rift is Nelson Mandela himself.
that son of a bitch.
And I don't know. I do think that there's a bigger person, not God, but a bigger entity out there that likes to fuck with us,
I bet you that year there was just like a whole lot of fucking just energy flying around. It was just like really intense stuff like happening and just like opened up a freaking,
The men in black are having some fun with us.
Yep. Opened up a little-
Switching your childhood VHS tapes with
They're like,
ain't nothing wrong with a little time rift, baby.
confiscating every Sinbad related genie movie that exists.
they think it's amazing.
Yeah.
They steal it just like ballpoint pens.
I feel that the movie Steel was some of his better work.
What, Sinbad?
Shaquille.
That's Shaquille, yeah. I was
Shaquille
gonna
O'Neal.
say.
And Shaq Fu. Shaq Fu is a
Not a-
decent video game.
No, it isn't. When's the last time you played Shaq Fu?
Ooh, when it came out.
Yeah, it's not a good video game. I played it like a couple years
And they
ago.
just take like the Mortal Kombat engine and just plugged in
It's way worse.
Shaquille O'Neal.
It's much
Shaq
worse.
Fu.
So it was like Primal Rage, but worse.
Yeah, I beat the whole... I remember I rented it as a child. I beat the whole game in like 15 minutes, basically. Yeah.
Interesting.
I can't beat anything in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Not even my own dick.
Dang.
I have no fucking idea what that means.
Thank you for listening to Absurd Report.
We'll be at you in the next couple weeks with some new episodes and some reviews, and I believe we're going to do an episode on the Flatwoods Monster coming up.
Yeah, because it's the coolest looking monster boogie boo I've ever seen.
And I do want to take some of the recommendations from our main page and mess around with some of these suggestions that our friends and fans have left for us to cover some things that they're interested
Yeah,
in.
our Facebook's public, so you can just go on there and just leave, you can leave comments about what you want to see on the show.
The address, please, Josh.
It is facebook.com/absurdandreport.
And we also have a Bandcamp that is...
That's absurdandreport.bandcamp.com.
So please check us out.
Is it Absurd and Report podcast?
Nope, it is just Absurd and Report.
Oh.
So Absurd Report at Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.com.
Podcast. I'm just kidding.
Learn how to read, Nicole.